just about ready to get started. Hi everyone. Thank you and welcome to today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. We're really excited to kick off today's conversation. We have Trailhead's Regan Morehouse with us today. So let me introduce 10K CEO, Nick Hamm.
Thank you very much, Molly. So we're excited for this latest episode of Ask the Expert. We have a very special guest today, but before we get to that, just a little bit about who we are. So 10K is an on-demand Salesforce talent consultancy. We focus on helping small consulting shops and independent consultants across the Salesforce ecosystem help the customers with the problems that they have. So lots of specialized skills around CPQ and communities and all of the new advanced learning things that we're going to talk about today that hopefully some of you all can take advantage of to advance your own careers. So why are we talking about education today, and why is education one of the topics that we are passionate about? Well, about 3 months ago, we released our Salesforce Operational Excellence Handbook. We're very focused on trying to help Salesforce customers run successful long-term programs around Salesforce. And one of the 5 pillars that we've identified for successful Salesforce programs is ongoing education. And in my opinion, this is a topic that doesn't really get enough coverage in the ecosystem. I think a lot of people are just familiar that there is maybe some learning content out there, that there are opportunities to learn advanced skills with things like Trailhead. But I think a lot of companies that I've worked with and a lot of people that I've talked to have kind of stopped short of building really formal educational goals into their programs. So in that vein, what we wanted to do was invite what I think is probably the best person to speak on this topic, and that is Regan Morehouse, who's joining us today. So I didn't introduce myself yet. I'm Nick Hamm. I'm the founder and CEO of 10K Advisors. But more importantly, we have Amy with us today. And I'll let Amy introduce herself.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me here today. And I'm delighted to be with all of you. And certainly excited to speak on this topic. I think I've always been passionate about helping customers and companies be successful. And I'm the luckiest person to have such an amazing job that I get to, live my values in the work that I do. So maybe we'll just jump into the presentation. So I put some slides together to sort of frame up the conversation around the importance of education. And I first just want to really have a moment of gratitude, because if you're here on this call, you, like me, want to help others grow their careers and ultimately be successful in the Salesforce ecosystem. So even though I can't see all of you, I feel like I'm with a really great group of people, because we're focusing on being those trailblazers and bringing other trailblazers forward. Of the topics that I thought we would talk about, there's a who I am, why this is so important, how we should be thinking about it, and how you could start today. So a little bit of my story. This is me in a circular representation, I guess. I am responsible for Trailhead Academy and my Trailhead go-to-market. So we simplify it and say I'm SVP of Trailhead go-to-market. And I'll explain a little bit more about that, and excuse the formatting on the slides. I'm coming to you from my house in Half Moon Bay, California. I've been at Salesforce for 12.5 years, and I've been really fortunate to be able to grow my career with Salesforce and really lean into my passion of helping others, whether it's volunteering or in my job in education. I've been in education at Salesforce for the last 6.5 years. So really a big part of my career at Salesforce. Before Salesforce, I built products at startups, and I was a Salesforce superfan. So much like you, I had the admin controls that I could configure Salesforce, and really understood the importance of understanding what's in the platform so I can take advantage of it. I'm such a super fan that my brother, who works for a customer of Salesforce, sometimes on our family vacations, if he has an issue with Salesforce, I'll say, log in, let me see, I've got some suggestions. But it's really because I'm constantly learning about the innovations, and so it's really an authentic reason why I'm such a Salesforce super fan there. If we say if we move now to the why is education so important? And certainly in the pillars that we talked about earlier, it's now more important than ever. We are in this new normal of working, and I think all of us are thinking, how do I reskill my teams? How do I empower them to be successful? How can they get hands-on and share this knowledge? And really, for a company deploying Salesforce, how do you build that common language or framework? That's really through education. I know we also want to go digital fast. A lot of us are thinking, what's going to be different in my business when I come out of this pandemic? I'm going to need to go fast with the digital transformation, the project that's been on my list. You can't do that without really understanding what's in the platform that you can take advantage of it. And then obviously you want to provide pathways for your teams. I think this is a really great time for reflection as an organization and say, how do I help my team grow their career? And certainly education, leadership education, those are all areas that really make this super important right now. Another reason, well, lucky you, we're giving you 3 releases a year with hundreds of new features. And this is the same kind of innovation we see in our personal lives. I think Apple just gave me an update on my phone, and I got to go figure out what those new features are. Salesforce is not slowing down. At one point, I had a slide with all of the logos of all of the releases since I've been at Salesforce, but it was way too busy to even show you today. If we think about this rapid pace of innovation, how can you take advantage of it? Because if you don't, it's like having a fancy car. It's like your dream car, but you never got your license, right? So we need to make sure that we can keep pace so we can take best advantage. I think also why we need to do this is because if you don't, it's bad for your business. It's technically bad. So this is results from our own CSG organization. When you're not creating a culture of learning, our customers are really seeing lower adoption. And plus, the Salesforce people on your teams are willing to go elsewhere because you're not really taking advantage or investing in them. And obviously, if we talk about wanting to go fast, education is one of the single-handed most important things you can do to drive a fast path to proficiency. So I think all in, I think we all would agree, and that's why you're here. It's really important. So now we want to think about maybe is like, well, okay, I'm in. I'm leaning into this. What do I do? I wanted to kind of think about how to make it a simple framework that you could adopt or any organization could adopt for really creating that culture of learning. The first area would be that you need to prioritize it. A lot of times education, and when I speak to leaders at our customers, they're like, oh yeah, we should definitely do it. But they don't necessarily prioritize it. So my call to action for all of you is become that advocate. Make it a priority within your organization. That's going to be step 1. The second part is really customize it. You need to think about what your goals are and what your learners' goals are. Really, what is your team hoping to get out of it? And make sure that you've got that learner-first approach to the types of learning that you're going to recommend and encourage them to do. And lastly, it's all about engagement and reward. And I'm not always talking financial reward, although that might be part of your equation, but really, how do you engage people so that learning becomes something that you just do? And when I have that little arrow pointing back to the beginning of the cycle, is you're going to need to repeat this over and over again. Because again, we pointed out earlier, innovation isn't stopping. So you really want to make sure that this is something that you are moving forward. Yes, Mahogany, I see. I agree. And of course, when we come to how, I'm going to say Trailhead, of course, because that is really Salesforce's innovative platform to give everybody and democratize access to education and learn the Salesforce skills in our ecosystem. And I know I'm probably speaking to, everyone who already gets that point, but it really is important. And if you haven't looked at Trailhead lately, we've got certainly the hard technical skills in there, but we also have a lot of things from a soft skill perspective. Recently we've added more to our quality trails. We've added more to leadership, and certainly virtual collaboration has been top of mind. We've got trails on that too. So there's a lot of things in Trailhead that are going to apply to different parts of your company's population. So really want to make sure that you can do that. It's always great to be able to show off what you know. So doing those hands-on challenges or getting the badges, the super badges, the certifications, that's really a validation of your skills and your proficiency in a discipline. That's really important to help people grow their careers. And then we have the fabulous Trailblazer community that I don't need to tell you, Nick, about, Mr. MVP and all the rest on the line, is really, how do you share that knowledge? How do you encourage people? So Trailhead, I think, obviously is a great place to start, but maybe let's go a little bit deeper and think about how these 3 major steps. So the first one I mentioned that I recommend is that you prioritize it. Yes, everyone who's a leader, we need to make sure either you're doing it yourself or you're encouraging others to do it. And I say set some bold goals. I've been really surprised and really excited to see some of our largest corporations, those who run a center of excellence, they're the Rangers, and they're encouraging all the challenges within the company. So I think, really leading from the top, leading from yourself and making recommendations is really important. I know that as we're all in our homes these days, sometimes time is a challenge for us to balance, but you need to really give people time or permission. When it comes to time, it could be a lunch and learn where we're all learning together. It could be a, take that day or take that week and really focus on this. I think it's also a great investment in your employees, and hopefully they feel that. And if not, you should tell them that. Mark Benioff, I think most of you know who he is. He, on a recent all hands call for us, said, you guys, we should all be thinking about reskilling ourselves, because whatever's coming next, we don't know. So let's get ready for it. So I think that type of message to all of us as employees is really empowering. But then there's folks like Sandy too, who you might know. She is really an evangelist for encouraging her teams and people within her company. So I think really you have to be intentional about this and really prioritizing it. The next step was customize. So as you look at your teams, you might realize that some people just need the skills. They just don't have the skills, they need the skills. Other people, they really want to see it to advance their career to the next level. You may have some folks where certification is their goal, and some people it's just, I got handed this project, what do I do with it? I need to get up to speed. So really make sure that you're not trying to create a one-size-fits-all kind of solution, because again, we really want to be learner first, and so you need to be able to customize it. If I think back about Sandy, she was creating trail mixes for people and recommending them specific to the role. So it's really important that it's customized and tailored. For those of you who aren't aware of all the things that Trailhead provides, we have the free public Trailhead. In Trailhead Academy, we have our classes and our workshop and even custom end user training. And if you want to be an architect, we've got programs for you there. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about was My Trailhead. So My Trailhead is a technology we launched in the Sydney World Tour, March 6th of last year. And it really came from using Trailhead ourselves internally at Salesforce for all the types of learning that we were doing, whether it was onboarding people or whether it was, learning for leaders, people managers, and things like that. So My Trailhead, just to let you know, and you can always reach out to me for questions after the fact, but it's really the Trailhead platform that's got the bite-sized content, it's gamified, but it's got your brand and it's your content. So it's specific to your processes. you all know that you can configure Salesforce to look wildly different from another customer. In fact, sometimes when I log into a customer or when they show me their implementation, I'm like, whoa, because it looks nothing like ours and it looks nothing like yours. So I think part of what's great about my Trailhead is you can really embed your process, your language, your priorities as a company. And we just also started offering content kits that you can download these content backpacks, customize them quickly, and upload them. So we're using the best content we've got on public Trailhead and creating content kits for you to use internally to customize. So on the third major pillar that I was talking about was engagement and rewarding people. So there's one company that would be, you know, one of the S&P type of companies who's a customer of ours, whose name I'm not allowed to share. But when they're going to hire people and when they're going to promote people, they actually have, how often is this person learning as part of the curriculum? Because we need people who are constantly being curious about what's new, what can we take advantage of? And in many cases, they were promoting people based on additional certifications or additional learning. Those are people that are investing in themselves, and it's gonna have great returns for the company. I also wanna share about Manulife because I love this story. They wanted to continue to encourage their employees, but they also needed to make sure that they were gonna see the ROI on Salesforce. And they didn't have a lot of internal competencies. And I think that's common. You know, you've got maybe some people in IT or pockets that have competencies, but not everybody else. So they ran a 6-month contest and for different roles. And what they found is, holy cow, we explored all these new feature sets we never knew we could have used. And they immediately put them in place to drive better adoption of the tool. And, you know, not only are they going crazy now, they haven't stopped. So the contest ended at 6 months, but they keep going because now they're really in that habit of learning all the time. And I think it's kind of like a commitment to a fitness program. They always say, like, as soon as you start developing it as a habit, it becomes something core of who you are and you have a better chance of success. Well, with Manulife, this learning concept has really become a habit. And they're really excited about the returns. And I think they're a great example of what we could all do in our organizations. I also want to think of the person because with every trailblazer zipped up in a hoodie, the pictures of the folks you've seen here, there's a story about how they're building their career on Salesforce. So I'll just pick John here as an example, but we've got hundreds of these stories and you've got these trailblazer stories within your company too. Maybe you just don't know about them yet. So like many accidental admins, John was sort of given the Salesforce project and said, oh gosh, I need to upskill on this because how am I going to be effective if I just don't know? So John used Trailhead, went to an admin class, and now holds 2 certifications in 1 year. So really a way, you know, now he's got the confidence leading the team. He's got a brand new career path as part of this. And it's really from a commitment to learning. And obviously he's seeing the rewards based on what he's achieved. So I also want to make sure you could start today on something from this conversation. So I know I'm going like rapid fire through all these trends and my recommendations to prioritize, to customize, to engage and reward. But also, it's not like it needs to be that daunting. I think sometimes customers feel like, wow, I need to come up with a whole education strategy. This is going to take months. I have to do so much analysis. And my recommendation would be like, no, actually just start today. So here are some recommendations that our team has put together and we want to make available to all of you. So if you go to sfdc.co/learn-from-home, because that's exactly where we're going to be doing this learning right now, are some recommended trails. We even have like some engagement tactics that we would recommend for you, and even like how to market this within your company. So if you're really going to prioritize this and be an advocate for it, we're giving you some assets you could use right away to kind of launch a learning kind of culture within your company. Also, there's just some good things here that I think we would recommend too, is like, given the time that we're all working from our homes, how about brush up on some virtual collaboration skills, and also some tips from us at Salesforce on how to succeed under the shadow of COVID-19 right now. So really, you can get started today. You can even send the links out to some of these trails today. You could set a big audacious goal for learning in your team. Maybe you want to double certifications or super badges. It can be as easy as just making a commitment to do it. So a Trailhead challenge is one of the #1 things that I think customers can easily try to drive. And you can put the challenge into a variety of different ways. I was hearing from a customer yesterday, a bank in fact, and they had all of their executives, 70 executives, actually have a goal in a challenge so that they would be up to speed on what Salesforce is, because they're not technical necessarily. They don't want to be technical probably, but they need to have that common language, that common foundation. So they're running an executive challenge. I love that. Then you also could have different challenges for different teams. You know, give them a trail mix that you want them to complete, who can complete it the fastest. With Trail Tracker, if you don't know, you can download it from the App Exchange and you can actually see the results of your organization, who's getting what badges. So you can have leaderboards of these things. You can either celebrate someone or sort of say, haha, you're at the bottom of the list, what are you gonna do? And encourage them to increase the adoption in the challenge. A lot of customers might say, everybody, let's try to see if we can this whole team, become rangers by the end of the year, or set some deadline that works with some milestones in your business. And you know, you can play with this, you can make them long, you can make them short. My guess is if they're short, it'll get everyone's attention, and then you can see what you should do for the next one. So that's a tip from me to you. You know, you can give them prizes. I put a link to the Trailhead store. If you want to buy some hoodies or, you know, stickers or whatever it might be, I think that could be a really good way to do it. And I know all of this is focused on Trailhead learning, but these approaches actually would work for anything you're trying to make sure that you're teaching people. It could be, especially if you're using my Trailhead, you could run these challenges on people development, on ethical use of products. I've had to do a challenge for mentorship because I'm a mentor to people in the company. So, you know, it really could be used for any purpose. It's just the idea of get people engaged, celebrate their success, highlight them, make it maybe a little competitive. You're going to know what works best for your population, but I think these are some good ways to start. There's some links in this presentation that we can certainly share with you and the team at 10K Advisors to share with you. But we have some other sort of recommendations on how you engage people early. So kind of how do you bring them in from an onboarding perspective? Because this is the Salesforce story. So when you start at Salesforce, you start learning in Trailhead from day -14. So 14 days before your first day at work, you're already learning on my Trailhead as an upcoming employee. And we're making sure that when you come in, whether you're a leader or whether you're any employee, that you understand kind of what our values are, really sharing the culture, but in a learning format. We also have a Ranger program ourselves. So I think we started it and then we went crazy and shared it with all of you. So our Road to Ranger program internally, if you become a Ranger, you get this hat, you get this flag to put in your cubicle. I mean, now we're all in our homes, so I guess we just hang it here behind us. I don't know where mine is, but and you also get to make a donation. Early on, we were working with Sierra Club. Now it's the Nature Conservancy. And you get a hoodie and a flag mailed to you. It's simple. It's visually aware. You know, everybody is motivated to do it. And when we first launched it, Rangers got special access. They came to leadership meetings. And so, you know, now we have lots of Rangers and double star, triple star, you know, all the star Rangers. But at the beginning, we really were using it as a motivator. And those Rangers got special access to opportunities like attending executive meetings or maybe getting those extra tickets to a game or whatever it might be. So having that engagement showing people that it's important to you, you're valuing it, and that you can celebrate them really makes it something that, instead of when I think of learning or education, I kind of do an eye roll like, oh gosh, this is going to be something. Now you really can approach it with a fun kind of spirit that really motivates the teams. So those are my thoughts. You know, again, prioritize it, because that's something that's hard to do. Make space for people, encourage them to do this as part of their career trajectory. Customize it, whether it's trails or badges or a class or a webinar you're hosting internally. That's really important. And then certainly recognize them, because every time, if you're on Trailhead and you get your badge and the confetti rains down, your spirits are lifted automatically and you want to do more. So really, when you're building the right learning strategy for your organization, don't forget that part, because that's a key part to making sure that this becomes a repeatable habit.
That was awesome, Amy. Thank you so much for all that. It's so much. I feel like I'm going to have to go back and probably watch this recording 3 or 4 times to pick it all up. But I appreciate you sharing all of that. And, you know, while we're waiting for the audience to perhaps give us some questions, there were a couple things that kind of really struck me out of that as well. The first one that I saw was really looking at education as a method for employee retention. Which is really something that you maybe think about when you think about, you know, what's going to provide, you know, a great culture for my employees, what's going to make them want to stay. And we all know in this ecosystem, talent has lots of opportunity, and there's no shortage of places they can go work, and the opportunity kind of continues to grow and grow. And retention is a problem at almost every customer that I've worked with over the last 14 or so years. So to see that, you know, you have some metrics around employee retention because education was a priority for them, I think is really encouraging. I think that's a really cool thing that I hadn't even really thought about it that way.
You know, what's interesting is, depending on the demographics of your employee base, sort of the earlier career people are very focused on what is my opportunity here to grow. So if you're not giving them an opportunity with stretch projects and really saying, hey, I want you to get this, why don't you go learn about it? They're going to go to somewhere where they can, where they find that. So I think the sort of later career people have more of a loyalty factor and commitment to the cause. But the earlier career folks are really looking for an opportunity to grow, and sort of shame on you if you don't build that into your culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, to the point of, you know, why we feel like education is such an important pillar here. You know, you mentioned, you know, the 3 releases a year. And at one point, I've said this, you know, tons of times, like it was perfectly reasonable to know everything there was to know about Salesforce. And now it's not at all perfectly reasonable to understand even maybe everything that's in one cloud, because it's grown so much. And I think a lot of newer customers to Salesforce maybe don't understand that all this stuff comes out and you're not paying more to use it, right?
Right.
So can you talk
really,
maybe
so investing in education is only like a small little drop in the bucket to unleash all that innovation each year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're just getting it for free, right? And the learning is free as well. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and maybe you could provide some insight on, you know, you talked about the prioritization and really how important it is to have leadership involved in these decisions and these initiatives. And you know, I would say that the number one key, if you could pick one thing, one lever to turn for high adoption of Salesforce, it would be having your leadership engaged and having it be important to them. Obviously, for implementing a training program like this, the same thing applies. What are some strategies that you've seen, or maybe some recommendations you might have? And I know that you shared a little bit of content around this to show that this is important to leadership, and to have them back this, and to actually have them take this seriously and help you as an individual contributor potentially, or somebody who runs a center of excellence, really make this pervasive throughout the organization.
I think that one slide that I talked about adoption, employee retention, and path to productivity, I think leaders are looking for exactly that. They want to make sure if I've invested in this platform, real hard dollars into this platform, I need to be able to see the ROI. And I think that's really what education has proven to be a factor in that success. So I think that's really a conversation to have, is really about the risks of if you don't. Because, Salesforce is a great platform, but if you don't use it to solve your business needs, you're missing out. And if you don't have people that know how to use it to solve your business needs, you're going to be even, more steps backwards. So I think really looking at the ROI and the risk, if you don't, is a big important part.
Absolutely. I think incentives is another important thing that you brought up multiple times, and then incentivizing the team to want to learn and to have specific goals. And I think maybe that's one area where, maybe you can give some examples of what you've seen. And I think there were a couple on the slides, but being specific about what you expect and not just making something up for just to have a number, right? What are maybe some of the specific kind of goals and incentives that you've seen, or maybe some other ones that you can talk about?
Well, when you think of like running a Trailhead challenge, it's not for the purpose of just doing a lot of trails and getting a lot of badges, right? You first have to articulate the why. Like, people, we're about to embark on this project, which could fundamentally help us digitally transform. We are the experts people are looking for. So I'm setting up a challenge for you. And this is what it is. It's really that context of the why, not just this is what we're doing and it's going to be fun, because you won't feel as motivated if you're not connected to the mission of what you're trying to achieve. So I think really that's what I'm talking about, expectations, is really, this is a huge opportunity. And I think painting that picture and then coming up with the right, whether it's 6 months, do as many as you can, or I want the first person to complete this trail mix, will achieve something. I think you have to sort of navigate what's going to be right for your team. But I think you have a lot of options there. I think sometimes the reward, yeah, people like hoodies and stickers, sure, but sometimes they just like access. Would they like to sit at an executive roundtable? Could they peek in on this meeting that seems kind of elusive, but they get to attend? So I think you can be creative. It doesn't always have to be, oh, then you get a promotion or then you get $50. It can be also kind of a strategic new opportunity for someone.
I love that. That's a really insightful piece, I think, as well, is, not necessarily money or physical things or, just maybe your name on a board, but what are the experiences that you could gain out of this that, might be exclusive or something that you might not be able to do otherwise? Really cool. Can you talk a little bit about My Trailhead and how companies are using that, not just to learn about the technology of Salesforce, but how Salesforce works at a specific company?
Sure. So I think what's been interesting on the My Trailhead journey is we used it ourselves for 2 years before we decided to even make it a product to offer out there for our customers. And we learned a lot in that. We started our journey, and I think this sort of mirrors what we see in our customers too, with people that are using Salesforce every day, and it had for our sales team, for example, and it was really focused on how to do your job and be successful. We also had to kind of upend our onboarding for our field, so we couldn't bring everybody to San Francisco like we once could when I started. We really had to make sure that there was sort of an asynchronous learning, so we really kind of flipped our onboarding to be mostly on My Trailhead. So you would get the company information in your onboarding, you would get product general awareness in your onboarding, and then when you did come to an event, you actually had a great common language across all the new hires. People were motivated. They were getting those badges and points. So even in their onboarding, we were kind of giving them a journey to be on. They certainly also were learning how to use Salesforce, our version of Salesforce, to get their job done. But we saw a very broad use case for onboarding and educating employees on various topics. We've also seen with our customers in the time of COVID, a lot of them purchased my Trailhead thinking they were going to use it for this digital rollout. Then they put the rollout on pause while they had to sort through and what is this going to mean for our business, and do we need to make changes in our strategy? So they used my Trailhead to share what are the new benefits of setting up your home office. They shared education on wellness and well-being and the importance of stepping away every now and then. We educated people on new policies we were putting into place. So we did it this way, and so did some of our customers, where they really had to shift what they were using it for. And the great thing about my Trailhead is you can just quickly create a trail and publish it out to all your users. They can do it on their phone. They could do it, you know, in this micro learning moments. So we certainly have seen using my Trailhead as adopting Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and those types of users. But we've also seen these broad use cases for pretty much anything. And at one point I was joking because internally at Salesforce, when we started with my Trailhead, it was sales enablement raising their hand. But then shortly right after, HR was like, I need some trails. And then finance and purchasing were like, we need trails. And now everybody's got trails on my Trailhead for us. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with customers as well in using my Trailhead.
That's awesome. So I know we didn't safe harbor here, but what can you talk about maybe as far as the future direction of Trailhead and my Trailhead? You know, it's evolved a ton over the last couple of years, from very kind of technical bites and bits to now bigger concepts to now even concepts outside of technology. Where do you think it goes from here?
So yes, I will say safe harbor. And even though we don't have our slide here, I will remind you to make any purchasing decisions based on products we have available today. That's just so I don't get in trouble with legal. So as far as the direction of Trailhead, the free online platform, we are continuing with our mission of making everyone have an accessible path into this ecosystem through Trailhead. So for those of you who haven't seen, we launched Trailhead Live, and that has been a huge growth area for us. This is where we're actually live streaming our experts to you. So if you're not interested in going through the text and the hands-on challenges and you just want a segment on, let's say, reports and dashboards, you can dial into that session. So I think you'll see us continuing to innovate there. I think we're also looking at different types of challenges. I can't share too much more around that, but different types of challenges that we could do. I think you've also seen hopefully some innovation around flashcards, different type of simulations that really help reinforce the learning. So I think there's a lot to come also with Trailhead Go, our mobile app. We're making some updates. I was just testing some the other day. So I think you'll see that continue as well, because I'm a big fan. I was back when I could fly in March, I think was the last flight I took. I had to do a new trail, and I went from the back of the boarding line. By the time I showed them my boarding pass, I had a new badge. So I think, you know, that is something that more and more, as we need to step away from our computers and just sit in a comfortable chair, the more I can do on my phone, the better. So I think you'll see that there. For my Trailhead, we're really excited because as of this month, we are launching in-app walkthroughs. So you might be familiar with in-app guidance, which is sort of like a help prompt, but this is a multi-step prompt that actually walks you through a process. So with my Trailhead, there's a huge focus for us to make even better the experience of learning while you're in the flow of work. So I'm right here on this page, maybe it's the opportunities page, and maybe it can walk me through a process so I don't make a misstep and I can move forward quickly. And also having the trails that are relevant and recommended to me right there in the interface. So we're doing lots of things in that to help when you are using my Trailhead for a sort of CRM use case. that you actually can learn right from there. So I think those are some exciting areas that we're continuing to develop. Also, the content kits that come with My Trailhead and you can customize, we're adding to that catalog every week, every couple of weeks in many cases. So we're gonna have some on Lightning, we're gonna have some on Service Cloud coming up. So that roadmap of content kits that you can be easily customizable, that's growing too.
Fantastic. So again, tons of great information today. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this a few times to make sure that I get it all. I'm sure we'll do a follow-up blog on this and try to help outline a lot of that as well. But I really wanted to thank you very much, Amy, for taking your time today to share all of that with us. Thank you everybody who had joined the webinar and attended today. And hopefully you all found this valuable and got something good out of it. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll call it a day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.